what do I go back to? Do I go back to 8th genocide or 8th exodus? To that I say most certainly not. The difference is, for us, the entire valley became a concentration camp. Kashmir was our Auschwitz.
If there is paradise on earth, it's here, it's here, it's here. Yes, I'm talking about Kashmir, that is often called a paradise on earth, with its majestic mountains and breathtaking beauty. However, this paradise was turned into hell in the chilling winters of 1990s, when hundreds and thousands of Kashmiri Pandits were torn from their ancestral homes and were forced to become refugees in their own land. Mass exodus and genocide of Kashmiri Pandits, manufactured by Islamic extremists in cahoots with Pakistan, seeking Kashmir's secession from India and accession into Pakistan. Most of them left their homes hoping that one day they will get to return. However, it was not going to be so. Hello and Namaskar, I'm Shreya Vijay and you're watching Ritam. The story of Kashmiri Pandits is more than just a story of loss. It is a story of hope, survival and unmatched resilience. Today we have with us Ms. Anisha Kaul, a poet, a PhD scholar from Jamia Millia Islamic University in New Delhi and also a gold medalist in English. Anisha has narrated this very story of pain and resilience in her book, They Have a Name for It. Anisha, welcome to Ritam.
Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, congratulations to you as this is your first book. I would like to start with that how did your literary journey begin, from writing for magazines to publishing your own book?
So it began here at the Daulat Mundi. It was a day in process, and as I began my interaction with literature, I realized there was so much to it, not just reading but writing too. And I wrote for my college magazine. I began editing the college magazine by the third year. And finally, I knew that the writer in me has somehow emerged. And all throughout those years, 9 years or so, I suppose, it has been a learning and unlearning process. And that has somehow culminated into this book, They Have a Name for It.
Anisha, tell us about your writing process. You have written about the pain and sufferings of Kashmiri Pandits. So how did you channel all those emotions and feelings into your writings?
My writing has been pretty much an open book for everyone to read. It is a simple process that I follow. And all throughout my life, I followed that mantra. I write one piece a day at times, and at times, if the news is pretty much helpful, I write multiple too. So it's a journey that I'm into, and each piece tells a story in itself. So that's pretty much how I nowadays write.
Your writing gives voices to those who were either silenced or uprooted from Kashmir. So why did you choose this issue as a book subject, and what moved you to choose this subject?
It's a pretty important and heavy question too. And I began writing and I found that there was a collective amnesia about this topic. Not many knew what it stood, the genocide itself. And then those who knew had very vague idea about it. So I thought, let's be voice to those who somehow were not being heard, and to add a third generational view to it, and as to how does the third generation in itself look at the idea of Kashmir. How does it conceptualize home, going back, or even living in exile? So that's one of the inspiration that I got, and I've been blessed enough to have all those memories, all those documentaries per se at my disposal, and those have helped me a lot to develop the book in itself. So that's how this journey has culminated into.
Anisha, you yourself belong to a Kashmiri Pandit family. So I believe your book reflects the trauma and sufferings you must have inherited from your parents, your grandparents. So did you at any point while writing feel overwhelmed, and how difficult was it to put it on paper, something that is very distressing and disturbing?
This book certainly is very different from my other writings. And I realized while writing that this was not just ink on paper, this was my trauma, my exile, my identity per se. Gradually, as I began writing a piece to another piece, it helped me gain a little sensitivity about the issue. I didn't know that there was so much to it. I mean, the Kashmiri Hindu genocide is very little known to people. And to connect to co-survivors, to connect to people who were writing about the issues within the community and outside, I felt that that was very important. And with other sources also coming into popular literature, where you see movies and TV series, they are also kind of adding on to that text.
Anisha, were there times while writing the book when you broke down or you thought that this is something you cannot continue anymore because it must have revived all those wounds of past?
There definitely were times which were very difficult, and to write it was almost as if I was reliving those things that my ancestors, say my parents or my grandparents particularly went through. 1990 was not just the only time when it had happened, it was just the most recent one. So this was a cyclical thing that was happening, and to write about it was as if I was a part of their trauma, I was a part of their genocide. And had my parents not been there to support me through it, they told me things, stories, events, tragedies, to the extent that it did not break me down. They told me that there was a ray of hope. And it was towards that ray of hope that they pushed me. And I must accept this, that they acknowledged and they somehow saw something in me that I did not. And maybe it was their positivity that drove me ahead. So definitely one must have that cornerstone in their families or their friends, their peers, someone to support them in a journey like this per se.
So Anisha, based on all the tales of gruesome experiences and stories that you must have heard from your family, do you see the situation in Kashmir has improved today?
It would not be wrong to acknowledge the fact that it has certainly improved. And one does witness that there has been a decline in the terrorist activities, the attacks on people in general and minorities particularly. What they are limited to is a lone wolf attack here and there. And I suppose it has improved for the general public. For the tourists, there never was a problem because the economy generally is a tourist-based economy. But for those of us who claim their homes, for them it was a difficult situation, but with each day there is improvement and we are on the right process, we are on the right path. So one does see hope at the end of this very dark tunnel. So we are happy and we are content that at least one is alive to witness this moment, to witness these changes, and if God willing, we will see the transition as well. So I suppose the homecoming is not that far.
Anisha, in one of your poems you have mentioned the wish to visit those ruined homes in Kashmir. So do you ever see yourself going there and settling down in Kashmir?
Most certainly I do. To go back is not the question, I suppose. The question is, what do I go back to? Do I go back to 8th genocide or 8th exodus? To that I say most certainly not. What I need to go back to is the Kashmir of my dreams, say, the Kashmir that my parents left, the Kashmir that would provide me as any other citizen of India equal right to profess my identity, my religion, my way of life without a doubt or an iota of my well-being being disturbed. So that is the question, I suppose, that we must deal with.
So how's the Kashmir of your dreams?
The Kashmir of my dreams is the Kashmir that my parents left, the Kashmir that my grandparents most certainly build. And the paradox of the situation is that it is to nowhere homes that I need to go back. We need to build as phoenix from ashes. The home that they left, we were informed later that it was looted and burned to ashes. So when I go back, we have to psychologically embrace ourselves with the reality that not everything is going to be the same, and one has to go through that journey, through that quest, and finally arrive home with the developed understanding that healing is a quite long journey, and in the past 3 decades and more, we have arrived at a certain part of it. Sing no odes to me. Sweet words and phrases slide away from dead ears. Glasses shatters as have beliefs. Standing in the queue, I await my turn. Betrayal served hot and traditionally. Some panic like slaughterhouse animals. Dig the rough earth with heels. To no avail, the prophecy of the village freak came home tonight. The devil laughs at the miserable lot. Reduced already to nothing, they pray as the mustard field catches fire. Burning along, the sun to extinguish. The tragedy let loose, though the day drew its curtain. Harbinger of death swarm in the gloomy sky, guarding as their victims fall unresponsive. Sing no odes to me, the streets lament. Mouth the eulogies generations have scribbled, in the language of those erased. Let their empty quarters settle a silent choir.
Anisha, her poems beautifully capture a blend of pain and resilience. How do you see art, especially poetry, playing a role in the healing process of Kashmiri Pandit community which endured such traumatic events?
Literature, poetry, in any form for that matter, has a cathartic effect to it. It has a healing effect to it, not only for the writer, the survivor, but for co-survivors as well. For readers who are living in distant era, a distant land, but they can feel the pain that the survivor has gone through. Most interestingly, while my reading and researching, I read most of Holocaust literature which Jews had written after their Nazi trials, after their experience in concentration camps, wherein they also resonate the ideas, the pain, the suffering, the resilience which a survivor wears as a badge of honor. And it is Isle Wesley who in his 1986, if I am not wrong, Nobel Prize, Peace Prize acceptance speech says that he is of course a Holocaust survivor, and he did survive Nazi Germany and Auschwitz. And he says that if his younger self would come someday running to him and ask him, what did you do all these years? And I would say that I kept the memory alive, the memory of the Holocaust alive. So that's the power of literature. What did I do writing these poems, this book, or others who have been writing, on whose shoulders we all stand together? All of them are keeping the memory alive, that although humanity can be gruesome, no one thought of the concentration camps, but they were running in Germany. The difference is, for us, the entire valley became a concentration camp. Kashmir was our Auschwitz, and that was the reality that no one in India, no one in Bharat knew of.
Is literature or any art a way to reconstruct all that they have lost at that time, reconstruct a home that they were once a part of?
Definitely. I mean, when I say that I belong to nowhere homes, I say that it is in my memories, it is through my words that I channelize a home that I've never been to. I was not born in Kashmir, but I have lived the trauma. I have inherited the trauma. It's not just the culture and identity that I inherited. I have inherited their pain. In each of their tragic tales that they resonate even today, When my parents tell of their childhood, their memories, it is as if I am there. I am a person who was there and who transited from Kashmir to different homes that we have been. So I suppose, yes, through literature, it can be hopeful that we can go back to those places which for time being we could not. And finally, it is that hope, the silver lining as they say.
Anisha, a message to readers. If there is one key takeaway you would like readers to pick up from your collection, what would it be?
So the takeaway would be that go back to your roots, most essentially. It is all that I say in this book, and maybe the next one too, that one has to revisit whatever your identity, your culture, all that you are, all that you have been. It is very important to have that knowledge of your existence. It is not in vacuum that you exist. So better take all those certitudes together and keep a measure of them. It will be a worth living life, I suppose, if we do that.
In the end, I would like to know, what is your next venture? Will it be fiction or poetry?
So I've begun two of them. One is a translation of the current one. So I've been told that translations are the best if the author self-translates. So I thought, why not begin a translation, and why do I limit? They have a name for it in just English. So I have begun translating it, and it will be available soon in Hindi as well. And the other is going to be a novel, I suppose. So to answer both of your questions, I'm doing both of them simultaneously. So yes.
So all the best for your next venture. I'm really looking forward to read your next book as well. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to join you here. Thank you so much.
As we come to the end of this conversation, it is very clear that stories like these are more than just a narrative from the past. This is something that we were never taught in college or school textbooks. And voices of artists like Anisha bring forth these stories of pain and resilience that often go unspoken. Unfortunately, despite some improvements over time, the reality is that the reports of tragedies affecting Kashmiri Pandits continue to surface, and a safe and dignified return still remain a dream. Unless they get what they lost and rightfully deserve, the Kashmir for Kashmiri Pandit will remain a lost paradise. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back with another episode, another story. Till then, namaskar.